now I'm going to show you, this is the, if you watched my my drum loop video, this is the exact drum loop I had, well, I think close to it, from that video, and I have started a song from that. And I wrote this pretty poppy song, and I'm going to show you how I mastered it and some other tricks you can use in your mastering. But there's really no set way to do it. I'm just going to show you some things that have worked for me. Okay, so it's a little bit on the quiet side because I plan on having female vocals on this track, and so I'm going to fit them right here in this mid-range right here. So, female vocals hit around 600 predominantly and then go all the way up to like 2,000. So I left it pretty wide open right there in the mid-range for that later when I add them in. So here's what I did. So far I have added a little bit of highs and a little bit of lows with the EQ on a Vintage Warmer 2, which I really love. Added highs above 8,000 hertz because that's where I saw this roll-off was happening naturally in my song. I wanted to give it a little bit of presence and brightness above there. I wanted to make this roll-off a little less steep. I want it to be more like a straight line. So once I add the vocals, they'll be like up here, and it'll just be like a straight line going down. Sounds really good. I like it like that. I added a little bit of low end because the kick, I had the kick at -10, I think, on this one. Yeah, somewhere around there. I just wanted it to be a little bit louder, a little bit fuller, especially because I don't have a real huge sub in this song. I want this to be more like a poppy radio type song. So I just raised it a couple dB, sounded good. And let's talk about some EQ tricks while I'm on the subject. Here's another thing I did with my EQ here in Ozone, is I put a low shelf and a high shelf. The low shelf is below 20 hertz and above 20,000 hertz. And they have very, very steep Qs all the way up to 24, which is the max. And I've just lowered it -4 below 20 and -2.5 above 20. I just did this because it clears up some room, makes it a little bit more clear, a little less muddy. There's no set amount, no set way to do this. Do it whatever sounds good for your song, not for anyone else's song, just for you. So whatever you think sounds good. I'm going to play it with and without this EQ. It's a very subtle difference. I hope you have HD on because you'll be able to hear it a lot better. So yeah, super subtle. If you have good quality headphones, you might have heard that little tiny difference there, but that's what mastering is really about, those little tiny things. It's not about the big overall picture. It's more about these little tiny things that make it, in the long run, more clear, more present, more appropriate for all systems, which is really big. That's what mastering is about, making it sound good on any system it's played on. So some other good tricks for EQing right here. I threw up this Synopsis EQ. I have highlighted some hotspots that are well-known problem areas for most songs. The first one is 250 hertz, which is a real muddy range. This is a real pretty terrible frequency more than often. So if you're having some overall mud problems in your song, try with a really steep Q to take down a few dB right here, or fiddle around with it just generally in this area. Whatever sounds good to you, your song, and your ears would be appropriate. That's a common area. 1800. 1800 is an area that I like to boost a lot in my particular EQs because I once read a tutorial that said when you boost around 1800 on bass guitars, it boosts the bass presence of the bass guitar, because that's just how your ear works. When you can't boost or cut a frequency without affecting all the other frequencies in the range. And I tried it on the master for a lot of my songs and ended up really liking it. So I would suggest trying that, but you don't want to have a ton of this because this is where your ear is really sensitive. Your ear is most sensitive around 1500, so you can't have too much of this in your song. But if your song is already kind of deficient or low in this area, I find that helps to boost that a little bit. 2.15 Hertz is a known problem frequency to your ear. It's a harsh frequency. I like to cut that a little bit. And same with 4500. This is a very big well-known problem area. This particular frequency is very harsh on your ears. I like to notch out a little bit there. Let's see. So I will play this for you with and without my surgical EQ. Yeah, I don't even know if you guys heard a difference. I mean, I hear it, but it's because I wrote the song, I'm so used to it. It's very subtle. It's a good idea to know your headphones, to know your monitors, whatever you're using, because you're going to hear these things with them. You might not hear it just watching this on your laptop. But no worries, it's all about experience and just whatever works for your own song. You can also use your EQ to generally carve out a tone if you really want that mid-range, that nice synth mid-range to pop around 800. It's a great place to start, 6 to 800. Especially if you have female vocals in your song, 600 is a great place to start. And you can just, do a broad boost around the mid-range, sounds good. If you maybe need some around 2K or you want to cut around 2K because you need a little more high-mid presence, you can boost or cut there. Use your ears compared to other tracks. Every song is different. These are just some, generally speaking, some hotspot areas that I like to check and that I've read are good spots to check and that my ears are attuned to. But every song is different, and every listener will be different and will have a different opinion of what sounds good and what doesn't. We've experienced that just from looking at the spectrum analyzer in these 3 songs. So do whatever you think sounds good. Last thing that a lot of people like to do with EQ is take a linear phase EQ like this. I have the waves one right here, and do a extreme roll-off around, the most common area is 20,000 because that's the highest your ear can hear. So a lot of people just cut this off like a Viking, just with a katana, just right down. And you can hear the difference right away. It has a upside and downside. The upside is that you're cutting out all that harshness, all that everything you can't hear basically above there. The downside is that your song might sound a little less bright and present, but that's only if you had good highs, if you had a good mix from the beginning. So really, I guess the bottom line is there's no right way to do it. You can have it any way that sounds good to you. I know tons of songs, dance songs, that have information above 20K. I know tons of songs that have been cut all the way down to like 16,000 or 15,000. So it's up to you. Play around with it. Here, I'll play my song with and without it. See, it's a very subtle difference. You can roll it down as far as like 15. To my ears, I feel like the mid-range is more present when you cut off all these highs right here, but I think it has more sparkle if you leave them like they are. So it's a personal choice. It's whatever works for you and your song. And you don't have to do it the same every song. I always change my setup. Every setup is different for me.